Hi, my name's Glenn Hasselman. I'm just making this video for the free accounting software users to show you guys a new feature of the software which relates to tax withholding for daily and casual workers. And what it is that I've now implemented this tax table for daily and casual workers. This is not a new tax table, but just previously hadn't implemented it. So in the past, if you'd wanted to do it this way, you would have had to override the tax amount. But with Single Touch Parallel 2, there's a bit more to the tax, which I'll show you in a moment. So it wouldn't have worked just to override the tax amount. So anyway, I've implemented this tax scale now. Now, what it is, it's for when you make payments where the employee is working on a daily or casual basis. Now, a lot of people will have casual employees, and what this tax table relates to is where the employee is working on a daily basis. So they might work for you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they might actually work for someone else on Thursday, Friday. That's what it relates to. So they're not necessarily paid on a daily basis. They might be paid weekly or fortnightly or whatever, but their pay is based, or their work pattern is based on a daily basis. Okay. If we go into free accounting software, show you a bit more about what I'm talking about here. We go into the counterparties. I've got an example employee set up. I'm just going to their TFN declaration. So this is the TFN declaration here, and over here we've got these details of payment arrangement. And this is, the existing or previous section, the relevant option being payment basis, and where I've selected casual and payee here. It also applies to part-time payees in the exact same way. And claim tax-free threshold has been set to yes. So this so when the employee fills in the TFN declaration, they've ticked the claim tax-free threshold yes box. Now, they can only claim the tax-free threshold from one employer, so they might have, in this case, picked you as the main employer and then claim tax-free threshold. If they work for another employer, they would say tax-free threshold no. And that's the method that we've sort of always done in the past. Now, there's now a new option, which is this daily work pattern, where they can kind of claim a portion of the tax-free threshold. So they get their, let's say they work for you 3 days, they can get that 3 days tax-free threshold from you, and then work for someone else for 2 days and get the 2 days tax-free threshold from that employer. Now, when you select these options here, there is now a new section here called Single Touch Parallel 2 Tax Treatment Info. It's all blank at the moment because I've just set this up from a file that was in the previous version of the software, and those fields weren't there. The software, you don't need to fill them in. The software will default these things on the payslip page. In fact, even if you do fill them in, they might get overridden on that on the payslip. So but actually I'll have to just trigger this page to sort of recalculate, and it's going to calculate these fields based on what you put in here. So I was just changing the value to trigger it to recalculate, which occasionally it's necessary. Anyway, selecting these options has defaulted the category of tax scale to regular. Category options, there are two options available. Okay, one is tax-free threshold and the other one is daily work pattern. If you leave this blank or select the T for tax-free threshold, then it will apply the tax-free threshold and just work as in the previous version of the software. If you select daily work pattern, then it's going to apply that daily apportionment of the tax-free threshold. So let me show you how that works. Click Save, and then we'll go and have a look at the payslip. So going into the batches and clicking on the example payslip. Now, if I just sort of change something, when you first go into the payslip, it just displays what was saved. It doesn't automatically recalculate. You have to sort of change something to trigger it to recalculate. And the reason it does that is because you wouldn't, if it was going to display or recalculate immediately, you'll never see what was actually saved in the software. So anyway, I'll just change something trivial to make it recalculate, and it's got this error message here: cannot calculate daily tax as the number of days is unknown. So of course you need to have some way to tell the software how many days did this employee work, so that it can give it that number or that portion of the tax-free threshold. So it's done by adding a timesheet line. So if I, sorry, I didn't point that out, but I clicked that Add Timesheet Line button, and it's come up with this timesheet line. Now, this pay week goes from the 6th of June, so I'll just select that date, and you can put in sort of 9 to 5 with 1 hour lunch. For the account, it's just sort of a bit off the page there. I do these videos on a sort of shrunken down screen so they fit on the website nicely, but normally I'd select one called work, like W-R-O-R-K. I would set up a specific account for the timesheet line rather than, and you really should do that, so I'll quickly go and show you how to do that. New account. I just call it work. You might choose another name. Category, it's not really that relevant. I'll call it expense. Active true. This stuff doesn't apply. There's no these accounts for the timesheet don't get any amount allocated on that line, so it's just to record the number of hours. Payment deduction type is important, and that should be set to time. Okay, this shouldn't be a rate or a normal rate multiplier, because there's no amount that gets put on the timesheet line. So just saving that. Let's go back to the payslip and click Add Timesheet Line again. This time selecting that, and then selecting our account. Now, the software has calculated the pay-as-you-go to withhold, and it's quite high, and that's because it's only giving them 1 day off the tax-free threshold here, because we've only got 1 day on the timesheet. So we can click add timesheet line again and again to add more days, and it will readjust the calculation of the pay-as-you-go withheld. Now it's giving them 3 days off the of the tax-free threshold. It also refers to the pay period start and end date, to note that this is a weekly pay period, okay, because you could be paying fortnightly or even monthly. Probably not monthly, actually shouldn't be monthly for a casual or part-time employee. Okay, once you've done that, it's just the normal save. And I just wanted to point out one more thing, and that is that in the beginning of the video I said in the previous version of the software, if you wanted to tax or withhold tax per the daily work pattern, you would have had to override the tax calculation, and that would be done by setting override tax calc to yes, and then putting in the amount, the appropriate amount to withhold. The software, I mean, you shouldn't really need to override the tax calculation unless the software is not implementing the tax scale. You haven't implemented all of them, just the main ones. But I want to show you one other thing. It's not just the tax amount that gets reported to the ATO now. If I scroll down here, there is a tax treatment code. So the ATO with Single Tax Parallel 2 wants to know more about what tax scale you have applied. And in this case, it's getting sent to the ATO RDXXXX, and it tells you what the R stands for regular and the D stands for daily work pattern. So whilst yes, you can still override the tax calculation, you do have to make sure that the tax treatment code is correct, so that you are sending that right information to the ATO. I guess rather than just fixing the tax withholding, it's going to force you to actually set up the employee correctly, so that you're sending the right information to the ATO.